In other news, United Nations investigators have found 17 new mass grave sites in the central region of the Democratic Republic of Congo. The UN spokesman, Stefan Dujarric, made this known during a press briefing at the UN headquarters in New York City. At least 74 people, including 30 children, were reported to have been killed during clashes that occurred between March 26 and 28. That's according to a joint investigation carried out by the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights and the UN Police between April 5 and 7.
Investigators in that country have confirmed the existence of at least 17 further mass graves in the Kasai in Central Province, which has been the scene of clashes between soldiers and members of a local militia known as Kamwina Nsapu. He's urging government to ensure a prompt, transparent and independent investigation to establish the facts. Should there be no effective national investigation, he said he will not hesitate to urge the international community to support an international investigation.
Two leading opposition figures in Zimbabwe have formed an alliance to contest next year's general election against long-serving ruler Robert Mugabe and his ZANU-PF party. The leader of the Movement for Democratic Change, Morgan Tsvangirai, signed the agreement with the sacked Zimbabwean Vice President, Joyce Mujuru of the National People's Party. Mr. Tsvangirai says the deal is a building block towards establishing a broad alliance to confront Mr. Mugabe and his ZANU-PF party, which has been in power since independence in 1980. However, the 93-year-old Mugabe says he's not losing any sleep over the proposed coalition. ZANU-PF has once again nominated Mr. Mugabe, the world's oldest ruler, as its presidential candidate in the poll. Now, joining me on the program to further discuss this issue is a senior lecturer of history and political science at the Lagos State University, Dr. Wale Adiremi. You're welcome to the program.
Pleasure.
What do you make of this new anti-Mugabe alliance formed by two leading opposition figures in Zimbabwe?
Well, I think it's a small step in the right direction. It's the beginning of, a wider coalition that's going to be needed to oust Mr. Mugabe next year at the general elections. But I think it's a good start.
Now, at the moment, it's not yet clear which of the two candidates will be the presidential candidate at the election. Could this be a critical factor that could decide the success or downfall of the coalition?
Well, there have been a lot of squabbles, regarding positions and even the name of what the alliance is going to be called. But I think those are highly, facing problems that will be solved at the right time. My guess is that Tsvangirai, who is a more formidable opposition figure, the icon of the Zimbabwean opposition, will probably be, the president or prime minister, come next year, because the Movement for Democratic Change, which is his own party, is a bigger platform than the National People's Party of Mrs. Mujuru.
Now, just out of curiosity, Dr. Adiremi, why do you think Robert Mugabe has been so successful at clinging on to power despite the poor state of the Zimbabwean economy?
Well, I think there are several factors. One is the opposition is, not very well organized. You've not found an iconic figure to organize and mobilize the opposition in spite of the years of, the bad economy and economic hardship and all. So that is number one. Number two is, on the other hand, Mugabe is a very charismatic and, whether you like it or not, well-beloved leader, in spite of all these atrocities. Again, he has ridden the crest of the farm redistribution, as a populist platform, to unite black Zimbabweans. But I think he's winning now, and I expect that next year there will be a change, given his age, and now what the opposition has started to do.
Now, finally, one would have thought that with the recent ousting of Gambia's Yahya Jammeh, sit-tight leaders in Africa will begin to have a rethink, but that's really not the case. So how can the issue of African leaders clinging on to power be stopped on the continent?
Well, I think we will continue with more proactive actions. The Jammeh treatment, the treatment that the ECOWAS and the whole of Africa actually muted to the disgraced Yahya Jammeh will have to continue. But don't forget that in this regard, Zimbabwe is a basket case. It is not your typical sitting president. you know, and by virtue of his age, you know, and expectations that by 93 next year, he's going to be easily, you know, eased from power. I don't see any major show of force. I don't think it will be necessary. But I expect that if the opposition can mobilize like this, you know, get together, we will see the end of Robert Mugabe next year, hopefully.
Dr. Wale Aderemi, thank you so much for joining us on Network Africa.